I don't totally trust Tony's judgment. So when Tony comes to me and says that I have to see this Netflix documentary special on quarterbacks that involve Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota, I'm not particularly interested in those three people as personality types, given what I've seen from them. I enjoy watching Mahomes play, obviously, but him being interviewed, I can't say I know him very well. Can't say that I know his personality very well. Kirk Cousins, what I do know of his personality, seems a bit rigid, quarterback careful. Quarterback careful.
You know me, I'm a Tony defender. I would say it's impossible for him to tell you need to see something that hasn't come out yet.
I've got the screener already, Billy, by the way, so I've seen what I'm talking about.
Did you see the screener?
I have the screener. I've seen the screener. Okay, and I'm telling you, you say Kirk Cousins, and the first thing you say is rigid. You are completely wrong.
How much do I have to push you on this? I've seen the screener thing before
you
admit
it. I've seen of it.
I have an email in my inbox that has access to said screener that's coming out. I'm going to watch it.
But you haven't watched it.
No, I've watched it.
You can't recommend something you haven't watched.
That's
Tony,
not true. Billy, you do that all the time.
Tony, you can just say you haven't watched it yet.
No, I've watched it.
Which one did you watch?
Here's something you should watch.
It's what, Billy?
A cooking show with Selena Gomez on HBO Max, not just Max. Great show.
So there's different episodes because there's different quarterbacks.
Let's stop
right?
for a second here, Tony. Because it's becoming something that's so overt and obvious that I believe it's a human resources problem.
We don't have that.
We have.
You should stop volunteering HR so much before we actually get it.
Well, because Billy is undercutting Tony at every turn, publicly and privately, in a way that is starting to feel abusive. And before I even go down the path of what just happened here with the undercutting on the documentary, earlier this week I walked into a room where a defeated Tony was mumbling to himself after a segment. And he was trying to explain to somebody how the pressure had gotten to him, and he stumbled through his top 5 NBA observations and got a Utah player's name wrong, and also said of Scoot Henderson, he's a good guy, was the analysis.
Which he is. He is a good guy.
You don't know that, but it was terrible analysis, and it was terrible prepared analysis. If you're going to have a top 5, Scoot Henderson being a good guy is not a good top 5 item from the NBA draft.
It was a bad end to what a good observation was.
Well, you were rattled, though, because Billy is actively
I had nothing to do with any of that. And I merely stated, and David and I think David would agree with me, you can't say someone needs to watch something and recommend something you've never seen.
Unless you're Adnan.
The point wasn't that. The point is that Tony very badly wanted to talk about this documentary special, and you torpedoed him. You rolled a grenade into his testicles as soon as he started to talk.
But we can literally wait a day for him to see it. He has it in his email. He hasn't seen it. What is he going to tell us about it?
The point is, Billy Gill, okay, that from the trailer, if you would wait for 37 seconds and watch the trailer, you would be in on it also. My question is, why Marcus Mariota? Could we not get somebody different there that probably could have a starting job at some point?
That's your question?
That's a litany of questions.
That's
but
the only question you can ask when you haven't seen it.
But
well, it's you guys haven't seen it, so you're going to...
But it's...
What questions could you ask me if you haven't seen it?
If I may,
You may.
They're showing, the quarterback experience from 3 tiers. Yeah. The very top, a person that we can't make our mind up about, and someone that would be considered, last year, one of the worst starters in the league, who's trying to rebuild on a once promising career coming out of college. So that's probably what they're going for there.
Probably.
The story arc on this is, it would seem, because Hard Knocks, they all need to get you into the tent. Look, we are living in a time right now where all of these sports teams have realized that, and all of these leagues, that if they can make, and Sampson was ahead of the game on this. He had the Marlins on Showtime. That show would have been so great if they had just been able to continue televising the truth, which everyone eventually got scared of, which is where some of these things are going to be scrubbed. Mahomes is too large of an economy for that show to actually be honest. whatever it is, you might get a glimpse, more of a glimpse than you're used to getting, but you're not going to get a real glimpse. You're going to get what Cousins and Mahomes and Mariota want you to see.
Man, Mahomes isn't that careful. Like, he'll give you a quote. Like, he is pretty arrogant, and he has a right to be. Like, I can glean plenty from his personality. He does put himself out there plenty. He's about to do the match.
Yeah, but Mike, are they going to dive into the things that really bother him, right? The things that you see on the surface and you're like, ooh, are we going to ask him about his brother, or do we have that relationship?
Well, did they?
Situation?
You tell us. You saw it.
That's a wait and see.
The show's called Quarterback, not Big Brother.
It's wait to see, Dan.
Hashtag wait to see. The thing that I'm saying to you, Mike, and I'm saying to the audience, in my experience, that doesn't mean it can't change with young people and streaming and just what content becomes. But in my experience, that position is the most careful about the polishing of public things said and done more than any other position in sports, because it's the only position where you're the face and voice for an entire sports community when you're great at something, whether it's Cousins in Minnesota, even Mariota in Atlanta, because of how football matters.
Has that not changed recently? We have Baker Mayfields and Cam Newtons and Lamar Jacksons, and we're analyzing Twitter behavior and Twitter likes.
All of whom aren't doing documentaries, all of whom make their teams a little bit afraid of their general behavior because it's young people setting a new market for what old people get to make decisions on. Now, Mahomes is strong enough. Mahomes could actually do an honest thing. Mahomes has the power that he could do whatever he wants. But when Travis Kelce tried to do a dating show, Andy Reid shut that down. And Travis Kelce had to go win titles, and now he's got a podcast.
But he did do the dating show. Like, he wanted to shut it down, but like, he did do it.
He did it over the objections for 1 year of management because of how it made him look, and tight ends are different than quarterbacks.
Right, Travis Kelce does whatever the bleep he wants, including hosting SNL. No one's telling Travis Kelce what to do.
Now, Mike, he wanted to do a second season of that dating show. They convinced him otherwise, and he did it against their wishes. My larger point is, in my experience, those documentaries can't be honest. I'm not saying they can't give you glimpses of honesty. I'm saying that you're not going to get the kind. You might get more access than you're used to getting, but it's not going to be the all access that I would want from something like that.
It's staged.
It's manufactured access, but isn't that what we always talk about, Dan? It's like Hard Knocks. Why is this so interesting for the first week and a half? Because, it's football. We want to see what's happening inside the training camp. We want to see people being their goofy selves. We have Kirk Cousins, who is starch, right? I'm not going to say otherwise. He's a guy who, like Mike said, we're trying to figure out what he is. Is he a good quarterback? Is he somebody who's not going to get you over the hump? Like, who is this guy? And then you see him at home. It's like, he's kind of starch there too.
Tony, this is what I'm telling you about the selection of these three guys. And Mahomes can be the different one. But when I interviewed Mariota on Highly Questionable, I asked more questions of the sub that was next to him, the sandwich for Subway, that looked like Mariota than I did of Mariota, because Mariota was giving me so little in that interview. I was asking more questions about how much ham is in your nose there, because the Subway
interview, by the way.
Subway sandwich that was next to him was more interesting to me than whatever Mariota was going to say as rehearsed prospect giving interview as what he thinks a quarterback is supposed to be.
Well, this is why we should ask Tony how it is. How's his show?
I don't
because
want
on
to
the
spoil
surface,
it, though, guys. That's the thing. You haven't seen it. I don't want to spoil it.
But do you think that you're worried that he's not a good enough quarterback or a good enough personality? But he was asked because he was willing?
I'm legitimately asking you guys if this can be good, and I started with telling you I don't trust Tony's judgment on these things.
It's going to be good. It's football in July, guys. Come on.
It's going to be good, but
but
you've seen it.
For you guys, it's going to be good.
How many episodes are there?
8.
Hard Knocks, Arizona. The Cardinals' story during the season didn't catch on. Nobody was talking about during the season. There really is a football fixed part of this where I want to get ready for football with a little Hard Knocks in August or in July.
Ooh, that guy's there. I didn't know that.
You saw the problem that they're having with Hard Knocks proper. The preseason Hard Knocks that everybody knew and fell in love with is nobody wants to do it, and they're seriously considering just running it back with Dan Campbell and the Lions.
The Jets should want to do it, but I can't get enough of what the reaction is in the huddle to our quarterback is in Denver promoting psychedelics.
Keynote speaker, Dan.
And how would that land if he were merely black?
I didn't say that.
Come on, you know you wanted to.
Wouldn't it be great if there were just a black quarterback out there?
We have a drug advocate for a quarterback that just had a pretty bad season by his standards. That's always in the news for the wrong reasons, and yet distraction doesn't really lap up upon his shores. Why is that? We heard more about the distraction that was Lamar Jackson than
Honestly,
we heard about Aaron Rodgers.
Now you're doing it.
No, Dan. You want to do it.
I do want to do it.
You know you want to do it.
What if Aaron Rodgers was on quarterback? Would that suck you in?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Because you don't think it would be staged?
I think that this guy's so loose right now, loosened up by psychedelics and mind alters. I believe that he doesn't care right now how it is that he's being viewed, because he's gone face first into the buzzsaw of I'm going to be maximum myself as I head into midlife crisis age, and I wonder about the worth of what I do for a living. I want to alter my mind so that I can have a better experience with the universe, a deeper experience with the universe. I want to see how kooky that story gets. Don't you?
It would still be staged. He's not going to do a documentary. The NFL wouldn't allow it. Roger Goodell and the powers that be would not allow
You think the
an
NFL,
unhinged documentary
you think
on Aaron
the
Rodgers.
NFL is okay with him leading a symposium on psychedelics?
He's trying to raise money. Give him a break.
I would advocate on behalf of testing all of those boundaries to alter your mind so that you can have spiritual and eternal peace. I would argue the same things that he's arguing.
Some people just want to get high.
Have you eaten the chocolates?
I have not.
Have
no.
you thought about doing it?
I have not
therapeutically.
I have never the chocolates. I've eaten other chocolates. They don't.
I don't mean
have,
a Kit Kat.
They don't have.
When I'm at a festival, no one goes, "Hey, bud, this will really alter you spiritually and make you find peace."
You're going to the wrong festivals.
No, they usually says, "Hey, want to get high?" I'm like, "Yep."
Don't you think that Aaron Rodgers, whether it's darkness retreats or elsewhere, is seeking some sort of higher meaning?
No, I think he seeks people like you and other people saying he's seeking higher meaning.
So you just think he wants to get high?
Some people
He's
just
an
want to get high.
attention monger. I think he wants attention.
Some people just want to get high.
High on attention?
He's getting high on his own supply, which, as we all know, is against one of the 10 crack commandments.
It's Frank Lopez Scarface before that. Frank Lopez said, don't get high on your own supply with Michelle Pfeiffer. Long before that.
Frank, I give you a beer.
That's bad business.
Didn't you just hear Frank Lopez? A couple years ago, the Browns were the football team that went into this part of We Need Football programming, part of the sports calendar. The Browns were from 1 win in 2 seasons, laughing stock for 15 seasons. Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham, season of expectations, crushed them, collapsed under it. Teams splintered apart, Jarvis Landry somewhere else, the whole thing. The franchise couldn't withstand it. Last year, the Dolphins were that franchise. The Dolphins provided a great deal of enthusiasm, but then their quarterback got hurt, and it sort of soiled what universally throughout the sport everyone would say was a well-coached offensive team that had a ton of skill position guys, and now is talking about adding Dalvin Cook as well to an offense that Joe Banner is saying is a piece away from being a piece away. And that's insulting to me. Banner, they're a piece away. They are not a piece away from being a piece away. How dare you question any of that?
That would be 2 pieces, right?
Well, yeah, it seems like more, though.
Right.
When you do a piece away from being a piece away.
Seems like you're far away.
It's not, you're not particularly
right.
close.
Mm-hmm.
The star on this team who left the champion Chiefs to come down here and be a star, to be more famous, to do the Tyreek Hill podcast with Antonio Brown. To do the Tyreek Hill podcast with Antonio Brown. Tony, you backed away from the microphone with your hands.
I saw clips of that podcast, and I was trying to figure out, because obviously sometimes people put clips together and make things sound weird, but it just sounded like AB was just talking about things that didn't make sense, like all together.
Look, man, we can do hours on Antonio Brown and whatever it is. He may just be an asshole, or football did that to him. Whatever's happening there is not it's obviously and publicly not mentally stable. And so, again, when he goes on the podcast, Tyreek Hill and Antonio Brown, he blames Tom Brady again for him taking his shirt off because of the dehumanizing in I was hurt, I couldn't play, they all pressured me to play. And my body's breaking down. And football players, when their bodies break down and their minds break down, it's a special kind of crazy. I mean, I felt for Deion Sanders, seeing him in the hospital with blood clots and worried about having a foot amputated. And I thought to myself as I'm watching that, even in that case, was it worth it to even be Deion Sanders if the beating that you take is something that leaves you with an amputated foot? Now, when you're at the height of fame but can't really walk, like, is it worth your foot?
And I don't know what kind of beating Deion took. He wasn't a very physical player. The sport just does that to anybody. It's crazy.
Well, he played it less physically than most.
Yes.
I've spoken to players about this. Andre Dawson is my best example.
Hawk.
Can't walk. He wouldn't change a thing. If you ask Deion Sanders today, he would tell you he wouldn't change a thing.
I think most players, if you ask them that question, we talked to Jason Taylor about some of the horrific things he had to do just to get back on the field on Sunday, and he said, yeah, do it all over again.
And so the horrific compromises that one has to make to be a piece away from being a piece away and makes you sacrifice whatever moralities we dispense with. Holy Tyreek Hill is fast, and I want him on my team no matter what, even though he's literally in accusations involving the hitting of women, children, and men. Like, it's what Neil Brennan says about that's when football spills over the sidelines and then football players accidentally do football in public. Antonio Brown is going on the Tyreek Hill podcast after Tyreek Hill has gotten on a boat and allegedly slapped the guy in the back of the head who wasn't going to press charges, learned it was Tyreek Hill, and then pressed charges.
The other thing,
it's
too, is Tyreek said who he was, which also not a heady play. You got to let that one go. He's like, I'm number 10 for the Dolphins. I'll buy you. I'm like, hold on. Don't say that one.
Kansas City kept him away from the microphones. Kansas City, you never got to know Tyreek Hill with a podcast under Andy Reid's championship Kansas City. He had to come to Miami to be free. He had to come to Miami to have no rules. He had to come to Miami to say, hey, coach, get on my back. I'll get you 18 touchdowns a year because, holy I'm faster than everybody.
Are you blaming Mike McDaniel?
It's kind of what it sounds like.
It does. Are you?
No, what I'm asked, say it.
Good work. Rookie head coach. I mean,
good work.
I dare you to say it.
Good work.
The player has more power than the coach. I mean, the coach has to listen. You cannot allow Tyreek Hill to have a podcast with Antonio Brown. You can't. I'll say it if you're not going to say it. You want to say it, I'll say it.
Anyone can have a podcast, Stu.
And stop vaping on the sidelines while you're at it. Enough. I mean, pay attention to football. Eye on the prize.
Alleged.
Yep, sorry.
We don't know that he was vaping on the sidelines. It just looked like that optically, right? Has anyone asked him?
They have, and he's very coy with his response. Is it just him being like cute and like wanting to keep it alive? Which, what are we getting out of that?
Did it bother you when managers had heaters on the bench?
No.
Jimmy Leland, one of your managers, a Marlins manager. I don't know if you guys maybe too young to remember him.
What are you kidding me? I missed that time. Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at LeBatard Show. Was baseball better when managers were smoking heaters in the dugout?
It's one of the scariest guest requests that we have to send every once in a while.
To Leland?
Yeah, because he's kind of a grump. He's very grumpy and grouchy, but like also nice at the same time. He's like, for Dan, all right, I'll do it. But he's like grouchy the whole time. Who? What? Okay, I'll do it.
He used to sleep in the office, so the clubbies had to make up a bed for him because he would not ever leave. He was that kind of guy.
A gruff baseball man. He also, this happened throughout his career where he had in hotels around in other cities. I think it was Larry Rothschild who used to do it to him. Or no, maybe it was Perry Clark. One of these guys, they would be in the same room and Jim Leland would sit there and the other person would knock on the bottom of a table, and Jim Leland would run to the door and be like, those damn kids in every city I go to, they come and knock on these doors. And I'd look down the hallway and I yell at them. And they got him for like 20 years on it.
That's what he looks like. But also Trader Jack McKeon used to smoke cigars in the dugout all the time.
Yeah.
And so when I was, 8 or 9 years old, I went to Weston Regional Park, and Jack McKeon came out to talk to all the kids about baseball and motivate all of us who were all excited after a 2003 World Series. And Jack McKeon stood on a pitcher's mound speaking to a bunch of 8-year-olds on one knee for 90 minutes, smoking a cigar the
Jack
entire
loved
time.
that stuff.
It was incredible.
Other players hate it. Executives hate it when they have to make the community appearances. Jack, God bless him. We sent him everywhere. That's one of the reasons we didn't want to fire him in 05, because he would do everything and we knew Girardi would do nothing.
You got to just send him in the Latin communities. He can't even hear. His
Doesn't
earpiece
speak.
doesn't work. He doesn't speak Spanish.
Was it
but-
just an old man who wanted
Yes,
someone to
that's-
talk to?
That's
wanted to
that's
talk,
what it
yeah.
was.
Call 911.
That's what it was.
Talk to anybody.
How old was he? He was in his 80s.
I remember one fan fest, and I think you were still there at the time, where Jack McKeon was just propped up in the dugout with like the movie theater tape around him, and it was just, and he wasn't managing. He's years removed from managing. He was just sitting in the dugout with movie theater tape
would
around
move
him. Like, I
him
take a
around the
picture of him,
museum
talk to him,
like
do whatever you
a
want.
mannequin prop.
I had to have been there because Jeter fired him. So anytime Jack was there, I was there.
Jack McKeon in his 90s. Was he in his 90s when you were moving him around the museum and just placing him in places in order to steal the last of his dignity and make a few dollars?
I believe he and Pujols were born the same year. I think they're both in their 90s.
We cannot talk enough about Jack McKeon and Jim Leland, but I was trying to talk about Tyreek Hill.
Oh, this is way more fun.
A stray for Albert Pujols, too.
What did he do to you?
Why did you just make Albert Pujols?
Well, we know what
his
he did to David.
Let's go over it.
In 30 seconds or less.
We had him. He was going to be a Marlin.
Yeah.
And none of you realize.
What a bad contract that would have been.
Oh, it would have been so good in the beginning and so bad at the end. Would have taken down the entire
He'd
city.
agreed to terms.
We had fully agreed. I was sleeping on Dan Lozano's sweet couch
That's
at
his
the winter
agent.
meetings.
His agent.
His
You
agent.
were sleeping on.
I was on the couch trying to make sure that no one saw Albert's wife. And I woke up to a nightmare. Ran to the lobby.